welcome to night 3 of Utah Remote Con. I'm Marley. I'm from the Cutscenes and Cupcakes podcast, as well as the Stolen Droids podcast. We really hope you are enjoying the panels so far. We've got another 2 panels tonight lined up that we're really excited about. Make sure you go to givebutter.com/Utah Remote Con 2. The link is right here below me, as well as it's in the description of the video for tonight, as well as it's all over our social media. We are raising money for JDRF, which is the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. So make sure you go on and donate. Help them out, help us out. We're also going to be raffling off some prizes. So in order to get some prizes, or be able to be in the raffle, when you go to the Give Butter link, there's an option to buy tickets. So make sure you guys go on and do that. Real quick, the prizes for tonight for this panel, we have a Gypsy Stage design T-shirt and a $10 Mountain Donuts gift card. So yes, that should be fun. Okay. And we will announce the winner at the end of the panel. So make sure you stay till the end. Okay, I'm going to bring everybody back in. Let's see. So we are going to be talking about Power Rangers today. And we've got Ben, Clint, and Jayson. So Ben, I'll let you take over.
Thanks, Marley. So my name is Ben Fuller. You can find me on TikTok as I'm Not Salesforce Ben, where I have a very niche audience of Salesforce fanatics. Joining us, we have Clint and Jayson, the Power Ginger here. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Yeah, I'm Clint. I am from the Shit Show podcast, which is going to be having our panel after this, where we're going to be talking about the 20th anniversary of Shrek. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, no, you can find me on Instagram and on Twitter at bub_rub. I don't do anything creative like that. I just go on to podcasts and they let me talk about nerd stuff. So when I saw the option to come in on this panel and talking about Power Rangers, like, yes, done. I am in, because no one in my immediate family or circle of friends will let me talk about any of this. So I just jumped at the opportunity to talk about Power Rangers.
Excellent. We're excited to have you here. Jayson, why don't you give yourself an introduction?
And I am Jayson. I am from the Lettuce-In TTRPG, also associated with Stolen Droids, and I play the Mighty Q. And we're going to be starting second season soon after Remote Con. And I also Twitch stream as the Fightin' Ginger, and I stream every Wednesday night. And yeah, I probably have the least knowledge here about Power Rangers, but I love Power Rangers and I wish I knew more. So I'm just excited to be here and sponge up all the knowledge and then answer the questions the best I can about what I remember about season 1.
For sure. I should also mention that I do another show. If anyone else is interested, I do another podcast all about Lost, the Dharma Initiative ABC show from 2004 to 2009 called Getting Lost. So if you're interested in more nerddom about Lost or anything else, you can go check out Getting Lost as well. But yeah, no, Jayson, if you're looking to get into the history of Power Rangers, like, there is a deep, long-running history of not just the show, but as we know it here in America from 1993, but it even goes way further back than that.
I'm so ready.
Definitely. So let's get started here, right? Let's talk history. Clint just mentioned Power Rangers started in 1993 in the U.S. release, and they just started season 28 in February of 2021, and that's Dino Fury. But let's go back to Mighty Morphin. Clint, just real fast, let's hear your favorite Ranger.
Let's hear what? Sorry?
Your favorite Ranger from Mighty Morphin.
From Mighty Morphin, it's always Tommy Oliver, Green Ranger, Dragon Zord. I mean, what an amazing character, because it follows kind of closely similar to the Japanese Super Sentai that it's based off of, where he's a bad, evil ranger that then turns to the good side, has similar powers. But I always loved the 6th Ranger in any series of Power Rangers, because like they had like a cooler costume. They kind of separated themselves from the rest of the Rangers. They were all cool, right? Like, I always loved the Red Ranger, but Tommy, as soon as he came introduced with the dragon shield on the gold chest thing with his dragon dagger, and he, the and he could summon the Dragon Zord. That was cool stuff. And when he became the White Ranger, okay, that was still fun. But like the Green Ranger, he was just hardcore, bad ass.
All right, Jayson, you're up, man.
That's hard. It was a tie for me. I love Jayson, the Red Ranger.
Yeah.
And I love Tommy. But reasoning behind Jayson was because when I was a kid, I thought I was the Red Ranger because we shared the same name. So logically, I was him. So for most of my childhood, I thought I was the Red Power Ranger. And I love the Red Ranger, everything about him. But it's hard because Tommy and like his Dragon Zord, like in his like flute thing, I remember getting chills every time as a kid when he brought that out. And she's like, ah!
Well, he made the flute cool. Like,
yeah,
you think of you think of flautists, and they got the flute. And that's okay. People can like the flute. That's fine. But when you got a dagger on it that can destroy putties, like that's rad.
I mean, I'm gonna let that slide. I don't know how cool it was, but I'll let it slide because me personally, Billy was my favorite. Billy,
yeah.
I like the Blue Ranger. There's something about just being slightly nerdy and being tech savvy and just kind of finding your friend group, right? That's kind of, I don't want to say that's how a lot of us are on Stolen Droids and these various podcasts, but it made me feel good, I'll say.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I saw a couple comments in here, Pink Ranger, of course, Kimberly Park. I've got her, just throw this up here. I've got a little one hanging out, a little Funko Pop there of the Pink Ranger.
Kimberly might have been my first crush as a kid.
Yeah,
she might have been my first crush as a kid. I loved her.
It's funny that you say that because whenever I think about like childhood crushes, there was always two that come to mind. One is Christina Ricci as Wednesday Addams, and the other one is the Pink Ranger. She's the crush.
So let's not to go off topic, but the rumor out there right now is Christina Ricci's in the running to play Morticia in the Addams Family reboot right now.
That would be amazing. That would be fantastic.
Cool. We'll jump back to Kimberly Hart being America's crush, and then she did like, I don't know if it was shortly before Power Rangers or shortly after, she did that Disney movie too, that made for TV Disney, where she was quintessential 50s schoolgirl. Everybody fell in love with her.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yep. You bring up these things, and all the stuff is coming back to me. Like, oh yeah,
well, it's a little bit nostalgic. Cool. All right, so we talked Mighty Morphin. There's a lot of. One thing about Mighty Morphin is really cool is you see a lot of like big names, and the biggest probably being Bryan Cranston, who was a suit actor during the first season of Mighty Morphin, came back to be Zordon. I mean, do we want to talk about was that 2017, that movie? Do we want to talk about that, or do we want to skip right over like it never happened?
Look, I've got this dude. You're talking about, little Funko Pops. Like, I was really excited about that movie when it was coming out. The trailer for it looked amazing. I liked that they still kept a diverse cast. As a kid, I didn't really even think about that one in the beginning. Like they had a couple of white dudes. They had they had Trini as the Asian. And Zach, as the African American, and like they just brought in a lot. It was pretty diverse, right? And as a kid, I didn't really pick up on that. But as I was growing up and becoming more, I hate the term woke, but I think just becoming trying to be a better person, And when they announced the cast for the 2017 film, I was like, all right, cool. They're still keeping it inclusive and inviting. Power Rangers is for everybody, and the show does that too. The show has got a whole myriad of cast of different people from different backgrounds. And I think that's what I really love about Power Rangers, is because it's for everybody. Everybody and anybody can be a superhero. And
it's designed, I hate to say this, but for like the lowest common denominator. It's designed to attract and appeal to the most people as possible. And that's really great. I mean, I enjoy that. I'm in my 30s now, and I'll still watch Power Rangers. I'm zero shame in it at all. Like my wife hates it, but whatever. I'm a grown man. I can watch Power Rangers,
right?
If I feel like it.
See, my family knows about my obsession with it, and so whenever they find anything like yard sailing or DI or stuff like that, and they find anything Power Rangers, they get it for me. Like this this board book for kids.
Oh, that's so cool.
With Rita, gives the whole story of Rita Repulsa. There's Goldar.
I feel like there's a chance here if you just get on YouTube every now and then and just read the story live. Just go.
That's a great idea. It's like
reading it out.
Heap of Trouble is today's book that we're reading. And then they also gave me cool stuff like a coloring book.
When was that book published? That first one? I might have owned that as a child. That looked familiar.
1994. So Power Rangers had been out for a year. Yep. This is probably yours.
It might be mine.
Jason scribbled his name in it somewhere.
Right,
you see the fighting ginger written in the back panel. It's fine.
Yeah. This book belongs to Jason. Yeah, exactly.
So real fast, we're going into this. You Are Now Dark says that Pink Ranger gave off Jennifer Garner vibes. I think Jennifer Garner gave off Kimberly Hart vibes personally.
Yeah,
that was, I mean, Alias was still down the line. She wasn't there yet.
True. Yeah. But yeah, no. Going back to the 2017 movie, I was really excited about the prospect of it. The trailer looked great, and I liked the idea of the story that they kind of set up, where it wasn't a straight 1-to-1 adaptation, but they used they like Zordon was the original Red Ranger, and I liked how they made Rita the original Green Ranger. Like she kind of broke off. I liked that idea. All
right, I'll give you that. Goldar sucked.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, you look at this badass right here, even in this board book, like he looks cool, but the big molten gold looking blob of poo like that I did not care for.
I was also super annoyed at Krispy Kreme. Like I live in the South, like I'm in Atlanta, right? We got Krispy Kreme, we got Dunkin'. I like the cake donuts. I felt bad for Krispy Kreme in this movie because they got rocked. And like every step, the Krispy Kreme was getting crushed. But I don't understand the product placement in that. Like that made zero sense to me.
Yeah, it was almost as bad as in Cars 2 when they were doing Allstate. And Mater even like sang the jingle for Allstate in the song. Like I wanted to shoot myself in the foot. But yeah, like the Krispy Kreme product placement was a little over the top. But yeah, no, I my one hang up on that movie, because I thought it was I thought it was cast really well. I thought they acted really well. Bill Hader as Alpha 5, even though the look was a little strange, but Bill Hader as Alpha 5 was great. I loved the Bryan Cranston Zordon like floating head in the wall. Yeah. I thought that was neat. But they became the Power Rangers too late in the movie. Like we're watching a show called Power Rangers, and it's going to be an origin story. That's fine, but we get like to the last like even half hour of it, and that's when they finally break into the morphin grid and they figure it out.
Like yeah, I can see that. That was a kind of a time suck to get there. They spent a lot of time building up Zordon and Rita, and Stephanie here in the comments asked how we feel about Elizabeth Banks as Rita. We'll side trip to that in a second, because I'm still kind of in love with like role models era Elizabeth Banks, less so with Charlie's Angel Elizabeth Banks, but
right.
Story. But like they spent so much time building that backstory that there really wasn't any time for the rest of the Rangers themselves. I feel like their entire plot was rushed through that just so they could drive some Zords that they obviously weren't licensed to drive.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. I did like Rita. I did like Elizabeth Banks as Rita. I mean, it's just a fun movie, right? Like if someone came to me, if I was a big name actor, and they said, "Oh, hey, we're going to do a Power Rangers movie. You want to do it for fun?" I'm like, hell yeah! Like it sounds like a blast. I mean, and she's I think such a great sport in everything that she does. I mean, she did the Pitch Perfect movies, and she was really fun in those. So I mean, yeah, it just sounds like it would be a fun time, like just a blast to make that movie.
You make a really great point, because Bryan Cranston is not a small name anymore. Elizabeth Banks isn't as all. Like, what do you think attracted them outside of, hey, this could be a blast, to doing this movie? Because the TV series, it's all no name actors cast in those roles, right? Like those are fresh people looking to break into the industry for the most part. And then you go out to the movie and you pick up Bryan Cranston to play Zordon and Elizabeth Banks to play Rita. That to me seems a little bit of a disconnect between the TV series and the movies.
Yeah, well, Bryan Cranston, he actually got a start in acting later in life than you would rather actually think. He actually was a voice actor for a lot of the villains, a lot of the monsters in the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So it just makes me think that he was just like, you know what, this is where I got my start. I owe it to these folks who did Power Rangers. Yeah, I'll do it. Of course, I don't know him personally, but I could only imagine that's probably what he was thinking.
I mean, we can hope so.
We can hope so, for sure.
All right. Moving on from the 2017 movie, let's talk your least favorite season.
I kind of lost interest as a kid around Power Rangers in space, with the Red Ranger who had like the weird long hair that had like the weird streak in it.
Christopher Kamen Lee.
Yeah, yep. So I think that's kind of where like I lost interest. And at that point, as a kid, it came out in '93, so I was like 8, and so I'm playing with my friends, and we're outside fighting. We're like, oh yeah, it's morphin' time. I'm the Red Ranger. You're the Pink Ranger, And then you get a little bit older. Power Rangers stays the same as far as formulaic goes, and so you start to get like this, like, oh, I'm too old. I'm too cool for Power Rangers. And then you get to be an adult, and you're like, oh, I wasn't. Power Rangers is still cool. So I think I kind of got into my head a little bit as I was getting into my like teen years. I was like, nah, I'm the Power Ranger. That's kid stuff, And now I'm like trying to get my son to watch. It's like, dude, let's watch Super Mega Force. Like that stuff is cool.
Sorry. So ignoring the Super Mega Force as being cool, Gokaiger was cool.
Yes.
Super Mega Force gave me a headache.
I agree. That's what happened was sorry, I keep talking over you guys. I know Jason's probably like, huh? But I remember when Super Mega Force came out, I was watching some commercials on it, and Tommy had come back, and I saw like the premise of it. They were able to transform.
The Legacy War, right? I think
yeah, and they had the ability to transform into older Rangers. Like that's really cool. And that's when I saw Power Rangers that I didn't recognize, like the costumes I didn't recognize. Like, what are these? What are these Power Rangers that they're turning into? And then I realized that I looked more into it. I was like, oh, there were Super Sentai series long before Mighty Morphin Power Rangers that they're tapping into. The legendary Rangers. And so I was like, well, I got to watch this show now. And so that's where I really started getting into Super Sentai and watching more of those shows. And that's when I started watching Gokaiger. I was like, all right, Gokaiger is freaking cool. Super Mega Force, kind of a wet fart.
I feel like Super Mega Force should have been its own series, but at that point, it was Nickelodeon, Disney. I think it was Nickelodeon. Went back to like a double season format, right? Where these characters were there for 2 seasons, and they appended Super to it, and we lost our chance at what Megaforce really should have been. Super Megaforce really should have been, which was this really kick-ass pirate themed series where they got access to all the powers. And then there's the 6th Ranger, which in the Sentai version was like just a weird, wacky little dude who wasn't, he was just a huge Power Ranger fan or Ranger fan, and he got to become one of them versus Megaforce was, an alien guy who, could fight and was this really good looking blonde guy.
Yeah.
I think we lost a little bit of the charm with that.
And I'm finding that more and more as I watch more Super Sentai than I do Power Rangers, is that I really like the storyline and the background for the Japanese show than what they try to adapt it into. Because you're right, with Gokaiger, they had this really neat opportunity to do a pirate motif like Gokaiger did. And they're like, let's just keep the same actors, throw Mega or throw Super in front of it, and we'll just and no one will notice. And, the most people don't, but then you get super nerds like you and me, Ben. We're like, Gokaiger's better.
I will say Super Mega Force, one thing that I really loved about it is it did bring back, like it brought Casey back from Jungle Fury, right? To kind of help them learn who they were and kind of grow as Power Rangers and understand the powers they have access to through the keys. Which, people collecting those keys were a totally different world.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I like to, I'll go back and watch just on YouTube, like all the morphing sequences that they do.
I've done that. Yeah.
Like I'll spend like an hour just like watching YouTube, just be like, okay, yeah, now it's Dino Fury. Okay, yeah, now it's Dino Thunder. Like
there's did any of you guys ever go back and watch RPM? So it was Disney's last production for the Power Rangers.
I didn't. As far, for someone who loves Disney like myself, like I saw bits and pieces of like their series because they did Mystic Force too, right?
They did, yeah.
Yeah, and something was lost with the Disney ones, which is really weird.
So I highly recommend going back and looking at RPM because that's basically the world has ended. There's only one city left, and anything outside this dome city is like potentially infected by a computer virus. Very high level. It is the darkest and quite possibly one of the best Power Rangers series.
Really? Okay.
There's a fun little talk where the Green Ranger's like, hey, we do all these morphing sequences, but like, what the hell's going on? Like, there's all this explosion and fire behind us, and nobody says a single thing about it. And they lean into that, and they just call that stuff out. It's wonderful.
That's funny. That's funny. It's like, well, that's probably why the world just was destroyed, is because they keep having explosions behind them every time they change.
I want to say, is it iZombie Rose from iZombie? I think that's her character's name. She's the Yellow Ranger in RPM.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, and you had touched on a little bit too before, Ben, like with Power Rangers, because it is like a kid's show, it's where I think a lot of actors go to try and get their start to make their big break into a larger acting world. It's like the SNL for serious actors, where at SNL, they try and get comedians to come and do their bit, right? And then they can go on to bigger and better things. I feel like Power Rangers is that, but with like a kid's show, to get them, as a stepping off point for them to get into something.
I agree. I just wish they saw more out of it. You know what I mean? Because
I agree. Yeah.
Most of these young actresses, they're very talented.
Yeah.
They can do most of the martial arts for the most part. There's some that are stunt doubled, but a lot of their choreographed scenes they're doing themselves. Oh, wow. But you don't really get much call for those kind of skills outside the Power Rangers, right? Like at least for that age demographic.
True. Yeah. This something as I was getting ready to do the panel with y'all, something was also brought to my attention that I forgot about, and I wanted to get your take on it, see if you had seen this. But I think it was in 2015. There was a fan film that was made just called Power.
This is
Rangers.
Yeah, the super dark one. It had James Vanderbeek, right? He played Rocky.
Vanderbeek played Rocky. Yeah.
Yes.
Did you saw? Okay, you saw that.
Yeah.
What was it called?
What was that?
What was it called?
It was just called Power. It's just called Power / either Ranger or Rangers. I'm not sure.
I'm writing these down. So
it's a fan made film. I don't know. Do you remember a couple years ago? I think it was in 2010 where
dude, that was 11 years ago. Let's be very clear. That is not a couple years ago.
You're right. There was a going back into like Mortal Kombat, because I love that too. But there was a fan film for Mortal Kombat where they were trying to show like how they could redo Mortal Kombat in a more updated, realistic version. Well, this is kind of what the Power Rangers, this short fan film wanted to do. Is like they were trying to do a proof of concept that they could do a live action Power Rangers that was a little bit more serious, but it was dark. Like,
yeah. So I don't know if Marley's around and she has the ability to drop this in the comment section, but it's called Power / Rangers, and it's the Joseph Kahn short film. And if you can throw it out there, people can watch it. It got pulled off the internet for a little while. I remember, because it was unsanctioned, unauthorized, and Saban or they went after it.
Saban Entertainment. It was like, no, pull it. Like, and I guess there was two versions. There was one for Vimeo, which was a little bit more graphic, that I think featured like even like partial or full nudity. But then there was a YouTube version that didn't, and they pulled both of them. But I think they're now both back on YouTube and or Vimeo that you can go and watch them. But like the fights are cool. The story is dark.
Yeah, it's probably been 6 years since I watched it, right? Like Billy Cranston decided to sell and mass produce Power Ranger tech. Zach was like a mercenary for the military, the U.S. government now.
Yeah.
Rocky was working for the Machine Empire, because the Machine Empire came back. That's what it was. The Machine Empire came back, took over the planet. Rocky was working for him.
That was Power Rangers Zeo, right?
Yeah.
The Machine Empire. Yeah.
That's
okay.
Was Zach the original Black Ranger?
He was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was it Hip Hop Keto?
Oh,
yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. And then was it because in Zeo, that's when Austin St. John's came back as the original Red Ranger, came back and took on the Gold Power Ranger.
Yeah, the Gold Ranger. Yeah.
From
I remember the Gold Ranger.
California, I think it was.
Yeah, I love when they did that. Like when like old Rangers came back and assumed different Ranger powers.
That's literally Jason David Frank's entire career.
I know, right? Yeah.
It's
green, white. What was he also? He was
black, and then he was green, white, black, red. He did Zeo.
Yeah.
And then he was like the teacher, which was when he was the Black Ranger, and was that Dino Thunder? I think. And then he came back in Legacy Wars.
Right. He came back in Legacy Wars as the Green Ranger, though, right?
Yep. And then there was another one. There was another crossover where they had Jason Font from Time Force showed up in it, and the Yellow Ranger from Megaforce, and Yoshi Sordo from Dino Fury, I think it was. Is that the caveman one? They all and they were like rescuing them because they were like being cloned and turned into robots or something. He was Jason Voorhees there, and then the rest of his career is like Bat in the Sun movies. I feel like.
Yeah, where he often reprises his roles as Green Ranger and White Ranger when he fought, was it Ryu and Scorpion respectively?
Was it Scorpion or was it Sub-Zero?
I think he fought Scorpion as the White Ranger and Ryu as the Green Ranger.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know he's making something new right now with this like White Dragon Ranger thing he's got going on.
Yeah.
I'm not following him on social, but I think it's out there somewhere.
I used to follow him pretty closely on Instagram. And he used to have a reality show on YouTube that followed him around going to all the different cons. And I can't remember what it was called, but I think there was one episode where he came to Fan X here in Utah. And it was one of those times where I was like, I want to go to that con and say hi and say you were the hero of my childhood.
That's what I did to Jason David Frank.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He's such a cool guy. Oh my God.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Yeah.
Well, I think was speaking crossovers, Operation Overdrive, which is kind of universally panned as one of the worst series to be put out in the Power Rangers universe, but that brought Adam back. It brought the Green Ranger back from SPD. It had Blue Ranger from Ninja Storm and the Green Ranger. I can't remember their names, and I apologize, but the Green Ranger from Mystic Force and the Once Upon a Ranger saga, where the Power Rangers of Operation Overdrive lost their powers, and so they went out and brought all these other Rangers back to fill in for the team. That's
cool. Now, Ben, am I correct in assuming that you've seen like every episode of every season?
Very close.
Very close. Okay, because right now it's another Dino motif, isn't it? Like they're like Dino
Fury. Yeah,
Dino Fury. Okay,
and that's the latest one.
That is the latest one. Yeah, and I was wrong. Yoshi, who's the Blue Ranger that came in, was in Dino Charge. Dino Fury is the one that's currently out, and Dino.
Right.
There's a lot of Dino themed ones.
Yeah, there are a ton of dinosaur themed. Actually, I think the first dinosaur themed was Mighty Morphin Power Ranger.
Yeah,
it's
caught on.
Yeah, and speaking with with Super Sentai, it was also the first dino motif as well for Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's easy to build characters around that, like the strength of dinosaurs, and align those with personalities. So that makes sense.
Yeah. So Saban, he was the man who's responsible for bringing Power Rangers to the United States. As I was doing my research, he actually, on a trip to Japan, was looking for things to market for U.S. audiences, and he came across the Super Sentai series Chodenshi Bioman, which is an old, Super Sentai that he actually tried to market for years. He tried to take it to different networks, and no one wanted it. Although they had American dubbed old episodes of Super Sentai that were playing in Hawaii for a time. But then Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger came out, and that was the spark for him to grab it and say, hey, we can make it into something. And that's the Super Sentai show that became Power Rangers.
Yeah, and they're using the footage. It's just cut footage, and all the unsuited work is new footage, and all the suited action scenes is just reused footage. That
is insane. That's got to stretch you creatively, because there's already an established storyline with the Super Sentai series, but all they take is the fight scenes in costume with the monsters and the and the Zords. And they're like, well, let's just change up some of the storylines and make it completely different.
If you watch regularly, you can kind of tell they
100%. Like when you could, because they're in Angel Grove, right? California, assumed California-based.
Ernie's something in gym, like smoothie and gym. Like I think it was like this weird merge of like, hey, you guys can work out here in a big open space, but we're also selling smoothies. It was like it was cool.
Yeah. That was the place I wanted to hang out though. Like it was that place, and it was Max's from Saved by the Bell. Like as a kid, I was like, I want to hang out in those places. Those places look fun.
I mean, at risk of going off topic, but those are the two Funko Pops I really collect, right? It's Power Rangers and then Saved by the Bell.
Really?
Yeah. Like that, I mean, we can next year we'll talk about Saved by the Bell and the reboot. And Utah Gone 3.
Right, there you go. I mean, speaking of Funko Pops, like I know what you're talking about, man. Like most of these are Doctor Who, but
I like it. I collect. We'll get back to Power Rangers in a second, guys. I collect Power Rangers, Saved by the Bell, and then Willy Wonka in the chocolate.
There you go.
Gene Wilder Willy Wonka, not Johnny Depp.
Right.
And then I've got some Moana related stuff, and Maui, and then Russell, because I'm a fat hoppa who looks like Russell when I put a backpack and a yellow shirt on.
Nice. You just need to get a Wilderness Explorer merit badge.
So I wore a neckerchief and the knot thing there. It's good to go. All right, now that we went way off topic here, let's talk ninja theme series, ninja theme seasons. Right, there was ninjas right at the very beginning. They kind of had the Ninja Ranger power, and that tied very closely to that first movie, which was I'm scrolling through Wikipedia here to get it. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, which Brian Spicer, which 1995.
Yeah, so speaking of that movie, 1995, it came out between seasons 2 and 3 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yep.
But it had a different origin of how they gained their ninja powers. So technically, it's a lot of people consider, it's not canon. A lot of people consider it to be, an alternate reality, an alternate timeline for the Power Rangers.
Which leads, I don't know enough about the Boom comic series, but I believe it leads very heavily in there.
Oh, does it?
The Shattered Grid multiverse is very big right now in the Boom comic series. Nice.
Yeah, see, that movie is just bonkers. It's so crazy. The funny thing about that movie, though, is that image of those Rangers in those costumes,
that's iconic.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people associate with Power Rangers now. Because if you watch the original series, the emblem is not in the center of their They're not
wearing an emblem in the original TV series, right?
No, it's not until the movie that they decide to put the gold coin shape in the chest for all their armor. I mean, their armor looks really cool though. It's not the spandex stuff. It's like hard looking.
Well, I mean, for me, that was like the epitome of cool, right? These are high school kids who are participating. Like that opening scene is them jumping out of a freaking plane.
Yeah.
For charity, right? Like,
yeah.
When I was in high school, I sure as hell wasn't doing that.
No way.
These guys, they're all about their community, and they, roller skating, and for a child, also the soundtrack was fire. I loved it. That was, they're doing this high adrenaline stuff where they shouldn't be. Like my mom would be like, "No, sorry, you're not doing that."
Right. See, and as a teenager, I wasn't jumping out of planes with a snowboard like Tommy was. Like I was breaking into the school, and I was breaking into the high school and breaking the walls.
Just making sure. The first movie was Ivan Ooze, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Let's get your parents and turn them against you, or walk them off a cliff or something. Like I remember this day, it was very much. You guys remember Lemmings on the Sega Genesis or the Game Boy, Game Gear, or something like that? But in my head, that's all I see is like, hey, let's figure out how to stop them. And then that's kind of where I think Bulk and Skull had a turn in their character growth, where they stopped being kind of as big a dicks, I guess, and now we're just slightly dickish throughout the rest of that series.
There's so much about that movie that I want to talk about, but you brought up Bulk and Skull, and that just brings to my memory just how much I hated them as a kid, but at the same time, like I kind of wanted to be friends with them for some reason. I don't know, like they were such
lovable. They were teddy bears, is what it came down to.
And the actor who played Skull, I came to find out later, like he's got multiple degrees. Like
he's got a PhD and is a professor somewhere, isn't he?
Yeah, and and they're all like in acting. Like
Jason Narvey.
Yeah, he's got a lot of degrees in like acting and theater and stuff like that, which I thought was kind of cool. I was a theater major for a brief moment in time in college, like very brief. I was actually on academic probation for a while because I didn't go to orientation. So I didn't know I was supposed to participate in all of the productions that the college put on. And so for the first semester, I didn't do anything. And then finally come out in the second semester, like, oh, by the way, you're on academic probation. Like, why? I was like, well, you haven't done anything. You've barely taken any classes. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that's true. And then I stopped being a theater major.
So Jason Harvey, he's got a BA he's got a Bachelor of Arts from Franklin and Marshall. He's got a master's from Mary Baldwin, and he is currently an associate professor and chair at the theater department in Concordia University in Chicago.
That's awesome. That is so cool. I mean, how great is you could talk to your parents like you're going to college, you're going to theater, and you can write to them, or write to them. You can FaceTime or Zoom and be like, my professor is freaking Scully, or for freaking Skull from Power Rangers, and they'll be like, what are we talking about? It's like, yeah, Bulk and Skull. Yeah, I know they were cool. Whatever. Now, I do want to go back to the movie because I got a lot to talk about with Ivan Ooze especially. But Ben, I'm going to ask you what happened to their characters, because they went for a long time, right? With
Bulk and Skull showed back up in Samurai, where Bulk was watching Skull's son, and Skull was like this famous, drove around a limo and was like super famous and it's like rich or something like that. But Bulk was like teaching his nephew, so to speak, the ways of the world or something.
Interesting.
They ran around in kimonos and like, uncomfortable shoes and stuff like that. I don't know how much it was like cultural appropriation or not, but it was a little weird. And
yeah. And they were monkeys for a part of a season, weren't they? They were
yeah, that was that Turbo? That might have been Turbo, where they got turned into monkeys and they were like police cadets, detectives, junior police officers, and they were like that. I forgot about that. That was that whole weird storyline where they turned into monkeys and then like working with the scientists, like the crazy doctor, but also associated with the cop who carried him around, and they all got fired from the police force.
Yeah, what a journey they've been on in their life. They start off as these like punk bullies who turn their life around to become chimps and cops and
I think one of like defining moments for me is did you watch, I guess you didn't watch it in space. I think you said that's where you that's
kind of where I dropped off. Yeah, it was Power Rangers in Space.
So if you go back and watch the season finale of In Space, or that kind of that series finale there, that's when they find out who the Power Rangers are. That's when they come out and the planet's under attack and the Rangers reveal who they are. And there's this great scene where it zooms in on Bulk and Skull and they're just like, what the fuck?
What? Yeah.
They're like, really? Come on.
Yeah, because for a lot of the original Mighty Morphin series, they were like really into the Power Rangers. Like, oh yeah, like we fight with them when we're their friends, and then the next day they turn around at school and they're like pushing Billy into the lockers and stuff, being all mean and big jerks to him. What a strange relationship.
Let's circling back to Ivan Ooze. Do we want to talk about the comparisons between Ooze and Apocalypse from X-Men Apocalypse, or do we?
I did see that. Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, oh, there you go. The thing that I did not realize for the longest time about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie is that the actor who played Ivan Ooze, so Power Rangers is one of my favorite franchises. I love the heroes, I love the villains, right? But Ivan Ooze is the same actor who played the villain in my all-time favorite movie of all time, and that's Indiana Jones. He was René Belloc, the French archaeologist.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
What?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, tries to seduce Marion Ravenwood, and then he throws her down into the pit with the snakes with Indy,
Yeah.
And he has his head explode when he opens the ark. Ivan
That's
is
a classic scene.
Yeah. So I remember watching this as a kid, and someone tells me, "Oh yeah, that's Belloc from Indiana Jones." I'm like, you're kidding. And they're like, "No, yeah, seriously." I was like, he went from like, super, Spielberg, box office hit, smash, cultural icon, Indiana Jones, to being purple-faced bubblegum in the Power Rangers movie.
That's awesome.
It was, yeah. 1981. That was well before Power Rangers.
Yep, Paul Freeman. Yep.
That's where I know Paul Freeman from. He was also in Hot Fuzz.
Yep. Yeah, when he gets shot in the foot as the priest is like, Jesus Christ. Like that was the best line. Yeah. So good.
Jayson, you seem to have the most fond memories of Power Rangers, the movie. Ivan Ooze, that's kind of where you focus there. What was your favorite part?
Okay. My favorite part is this move. It happens to be a move that happens in the movie. And it's where Kimberly does this sort of high kick maneuver. And I always remember this as a kid, but she does like this kick, and she kicks the monster in the face over and over and over. She's like, "You make me sick, sick, sick." And then she keeps like smack him in the face. And I remembered that as a kid. And I would like rewind that and be like, this is why I love her.
Yeah.
Was that now, were they fighting the putties or was the Tengu warriors? Because Tengu was the bird things, which never Yes, really showing up in the TV series, right? Like the Tengu Warriors.
I think they did. I think because they wanted to still kind of make it relate to the next series. And if I remember right, like the bird dudes, the bird putties, as I'll call them, I think they do show up as part of the henchmen's.
They were, yeah. Mighty Morphin Series 3.
Yeah.
Season 3.
We were talking about, the ninja motif because before we started talking about the movie. So like I said, I started to peter off when In Space came about, but I remember even losing mild interest in it with Alien Rangers. And I think as great as the show is, I feel like a lot of them, and they might have kind of caught up to it a little bit in, the kind of the mid section of the Power Rangers, and kind of lost it again, as we saw with like Super Mega Force, where they didn't take full advantage of the motifs that Super Sentai had set up for them, because they called them Alien Rangers, and they're out of costume. Like the helmets just looked weird. It looked just like
they
looked like the prototype to Ivan Ooze.
Like if I remember Alien Rangers right, it was like a 6-episode arc, wasn't it? Like it wasn't even a full season. They called it a season, but they just crammed it into. Was that Zeo? I think they crammed it into Zeo.
I think it was season 2, because like the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers all turned into kids. They all turned into children. And then
that was Zeo.
Oh, was that Zeo? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Pretty sure that was Zeo.
I think you're right. Yeah, because Tommy was no longer the White Ranger at that time. You're right. Now, based on your favorite Power Ranger at the time you were watching it, would you try to wear the same colors that they did? Like you love the Red Ranger, so I'm going to wear red all the time.
Red's still my favorite.
My mom
color.
still picked my clothes, so it didn't happen to me.
You're still wearing stripes with overalls, son. Yeah.
I had a very particular shorts and blazer look going on as a child. Like I distinctly, and I don't remember, I blocked this all out, but I definitely know of several old photos of me wearing the same exact outfit, just in different sizes. And it was like blue striped shorts and a yellow blazer. It was
nice.
awful.
That sounds amazing. Right? Yeah, Jason knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I actually I love the Red Power Ranger, but I remember my mom bought me a blue Power Ranger sweater, and I was devastated. I still like the blue Power Ranger, but I was still devastated. I still wore it, of course.
Yeah.
But
right.
So
go ahead.
Do you guys remember, was that in Wild Force where they the Red Ranger series, right? What was that?
Forever Red?
Forever Red, yes. Now, did you watch any other kid shows around that time? Do you guys remember Big Bad Beetleborgs at all?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Bad guys in Forever Red.
Is that what happened?
Well, that's right. They use the suits. They use the suit.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah. Oh man, I hated Big Bad Beetleborgs.
See, I loved Big Bad. I don't even care. Kids living in a haunted house who had like superpowers, fighting monsters from their comic books. That was the dream, man.
It was so bonkers.
When they made them bad guys and they put Big Bad Beetleborgs on the back of a freaking horse on the moon, I was old enough to understand that didn't work. That logic did not flow together.
Yeah. So great. I mean, I think I liked Big Bad Beetleborgs, except like the I don't know, even as a kid, I was like, this is
weird.
This is weird.
The clown genie type thing who granted them the powers, right?
Yeah, who looked like Bruce Campbell, like like Bubba Hotep. He had the werewolf, he had the Frankenstein, and then they turned into the metallic bug.
Yeah.
There were parts of it that was cool, but there was another one too that was around that time as kids. There was VR Troopers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So VR Troopers, the two characters, Tommy and the main character from VR Troopers, so Jason David Frank, was when he left, when the Green Ranger series arc ended, he was supposed to leave the show. And he was going to go to VR Troopers and be the lead of VR Troopers. And Brad Hawkins, I think it might be his name. Don't quote me on that. He was supposed to be the White Ranger.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but JDF's fan favorite. So they're like, you know what? Let's flip it around here. And produced by the same company, they pushed the other role off to him, and Jason David Frank became their White Ranger.
Now, I do have another question to you fellas in regards to playing as Power Rangers as a kid. I mean, did you play like as a kid? Like I'm like with your friends, like you played Power Rangers.
I mean, I was like 17, but yeah, sure.
Now, would you ever do like the sound effects that like Jason David Frank would do, like when you do his kicks? You're like, see, yeah, see.
Yes.
You ever do that? Yes.
Yes.
To this day, I think about that all the time.
Oh my gosh.
I don't
So
wanna
many
see-
sound effects.
I don't want to say playing as Power Rangers because we were in like our mid 20s at the moment. So Collin Farmer, who wasn't able to be here tonight, who I think was originally supposed to moderate this panel, he and I have matching gold communicators from Zeo Ranger.
That's amazing.
Like, yeah, I want to say they're probably the defect batch from Starlight Studios or something like that. But we haven't. I tried to find it, but I moved last weekend, so I don't know where any of that stuff is right now. But we definitely have matching gold communicators. They don't work,
amazing.
but we have them.
Now, do either of you
hate them?
Do either of you use the beep 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 as your text tone?
I used to.
I don't have volume on my phone because it just annoys me.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'll occasionally.
I had action figures, and I had the separate Zords, and they would morph into them. If I put them together, they'd morph into the Megazord.
Yes.
And then I had the weapons. I had Jason's sword.
Power sword.
And then I also power sword, and I had I think it was a black axe that also turned into a blaster.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to go on a limb here, and I assume it's also called the Power Axe.
Yeah. And then the bow and arrow, the pink bow and arrow. I rocked those. Oh my gosh!
I mean,
toys.
A couple years back, I was looking at looking to buy the set because we were thinking. So I live in Atlanta. Dragon Con's really big out here. We were thinking of going as these like knockoff Power Rangers, and like the power weapons were just like outrageously expensive on eBay.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and they came out a couple years ago with like a legacy version, of like the Dragon Dagger that actually had like sound effects and it had weight to it. It looked cool.
Legacy things were outrageously expensive.
Yeah, and like they were exclusive to like Toys R Us only or something like that. Like they had that. They had like the belt buckle morpher. It's morphin time. They had that as well.
So cool.
And like
I'm on eBay right now, and I could get the white Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 1994 Saba sword. It's a White Ranger sword working, and it's $70.
Oh,
I mean, $70.
And I'm not looking too deeply into this, but the Legacy Red Ranger Power Sword from a couple years back, $778.
Oh man!
Holy crap!
That's crazy.
So we have about 3 minutes before we have to wrap up, and Marley shows up and kicks us out of this group, so Clint can talk about Shrek for another hour.
Yeah, so please join us as we talk about as I move from one of my favorite things to Shrek, but
Shrek is love, Shrek is life.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
There's a Scottish TikToker who just this awesome. I think it's Who's That Girl or something like that is her name, but she does a Hamilton rap dressed up as Shrek in full Shrek outfit. I'm gonna see if I can find it and drop in the link for you guys.
Please do.
We have 3 minutes. Let's talk cosplay. Have you considered a full-blown Power Ranger suit?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's even gone as far as me trying to find some 3D print files to 3D print my own helmet. And like I recently lost a bunch of weight, so I'm trying to like get fit to like actually fit into like one of those spandex suits.
I'm right there with you.
So I'm like I'm working towards it, right? I'm working towards it. Now which one to just
expensive though too. If you get a quality one, like the 3-4-way stretch, Rav Seams does a 4-way stretch suit and it's expensive.
There's a guy that I follow on Instagram who he cosplays like all the time as Power Rangers. It's Billy something. Billy Sealis. He's a cosplayer. A lot of the stuff he does is like Super Sentai, but that can be translated over into Power Rangers. But he's got all the helmets. He's done Gokaiger. He's done
just a decent helmet alone is several $100s, right?
Yeah.
I think I priced it out once in a full authentic Ranger suit, helmet, boots, gloves. You're looking $1,200, $1,400 to make this actually look good.
That's crazy.
I have not mentioned that to my wife yet, but it will happen.
I'm so for it.
Let's see. Marley just dropped in to tell us we're over time.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
This has been fun. I've learned a lot about Power Rangers. I that I did not know before.
She
So.
says that very kind of like hesitantly. She's like, I don't want to admit that I learned something, but I did.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
My extent of Power Rangers begins and ends with I like the color pink, so I liked the pink Power Ranger when I was little, and like me and my cousins would play Power Rangers, and me and my sister would always fight over who got to be the pink one.
Right.
I'm going to leave you with one bit of information here. The Yellow Ranger in the original Super Sentai was a dude, which is why in Power Rangers Mighty Morphin, she did not wear a skirt on her suit.
Yep.
Oh, gotcha.
And the character in Super Sentai in Japanese, his name was ironically Boy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been fun, you guys. Thanks so much for coming on here and talking about Power Rangers. It really is like what is the word I'm looking for? It's like a niche that still is very strong today, I feel like.
People spend a lot of money on Power Rangers every year.
Yeah, it's awesome.
There's a Netflix toys, the toys that made us, I think it was, series on Power Rangers, and the Juggernaut. They make money hand over fist on those toys.
I had the action figure that the head flipped from the helmet to the unhelmet.
I have that too. I had that one too. Green Power Ranger head flip.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I am about to announce the raffle winner for this panel. So again, the prize is a Gypsy Sage Design t-shirt and a $10 gift card to Mountain Donuts, located here in Ogden, Utah. Delicious donuts. Seriously, go try them if you can. And the winner is Steve Kondrick.
Woohoo!
Yay, good job, Steve.
Congrats, Steve.
Next up, as these guys already mentioned, we have a panel all about Shrek. It is the 20th year anniversary, and I'm really excited to hear what these guys have to say about Shrek. So keep watching RemoteCon. There's lots of panels still to come. We're just getting started. And make sure you go donate to Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. You can do that at givebutter.com/Utah RemoteCon 2. So thanks, guys. Have a good night.
See you guys.
Thank you. I'll see you in a little bit.
They gonna kick us out? I'm gonna say it so they kick me out.
Oh, is it still live? Bye, Lindsay.
Bye, Lindsay.